We now have before us, we'll hear from the public shortly, but first, we need to put the law on our desk. And by putting the law on our desk, does not mean it to become law. Still have a long way to go. So no need to panic or be in an uproar yet. We'll have a long discussion after we do this. Can I have a motion, an introduction, a second, to put the law on our desk?
What motion, Tom?
Okay, you're making the motion, Myra?
Yes.
Okay. Arthur. Roll call vote, please, Tracy.
Councilmember Anthony.
Aye.
Vescaluti. Aye. Fritz.
Aye.
Harris. Aye. Moranti.
Aye.
Morris.
Aye.
Tony.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
President Pietro.
Aye.
Carried.
Thank you. Now, there's a lot of the public here, both online and present. And we hope to begin to kind of explain what this law really is, because I'm sure there's a lot of misinformation out there, as I learned before the meeting from a number of you. So if you'd like to make a comment or ask a question, now the meeting is open to you. You want to raise your hand, let us know. I believe I know who you are, Mr. Hutchin.
Tim Hutchin, Jocelyn Place. First question is, how much is this fee?
Well, as written in the law right now, the fee.
Yeah, hold on.
I think it's 200 for residential.
Yeah, it's, there's a low foot traffic lots that are, identified by property classification, those are 100. All other lots are $200. There's 3 levels of the fee. One is the maintenance fee, which is at 1 and 200. There's also a frontage fee and a square footage fee. And depending on
What's the frontage fee?
the frontage fee is. The frontage fee is $30 and the square footage fee was, I believe, 15 cents per
I think it's 1.5 cents.
0.015. The lot square footage fee shall be equal to the lot's building square footage times 0.015. Depending on the type of property you have, is depending on whether you're charged all 3 of those fees. If you're charged a portion of them, it would depend on the property classification and also whether you have an actual existing sidewalk or not. If you don't have an existing sidewalk, you wouldn't be charged, say, a frontage fee or a square footage fee.
Okay, so what would my minimum be if I had no sidewalk, but I have a large frontage?
We would need to know your actual frontage itself. So it would be
Okay,
a $30.
let's say it's 180 feet.
So it's $30 for each 55 feet of frontage.
No. Okay,
And then on top of that would be that 100 or 200.
all right. What's the expiration on this as far as these fees? Is this just go on and?
No, it's revised every year, I believe. So
So the fees will be reviewed, or it's considered, right now, the fees are gonna be reviewed annually by the council, but there is no sunset provision, so it is essentially the same way, any sort of special district assessment would go, it would go on while the district is in existence.
And we all know where that'll go. When did you guys know that you were gonna charge everybody regardless of whether or not they had a sidewalk?
I think that's been in discussion for the 4 years we've been talking about this.
Okay. And when would work begin once we get this
Well,
going?
the plan is, once we get started, to hire a project manager who would then schedule the entire, as soon as he or she could get it done.
Okay. And one of the questions I had, is there a line in the 2023 budget for this?
No,
Was there a revenue line put in the budget?
no,
Okay, so this is over and above anything in the budget.
correct.
So this wasn't planned for 3 months ago, but here we are.
What do you
at the
mean
end
by?
of- This wasn't planned for in September, even though you knew it was coming.
There would be no basis to put it in the budget unless the legislation gets passed. So they wouldn't be able to put a revenue line in the budget for a special district that wasn't in existence.
I'm satisfied. So on Jocelyn Place, River Ledge, Oakwood, River Ledge, one of our sidewalks gonna get installed.
There's others too, there's Lucy, now what's that, your street's name?
Lucio.
Lucille, not Lucy. It's parts of work,
Storm Avenue.
yeah,
Glen
I
Avenue.
have plenty.
Oh, no, there's a ton of them, Academy Hill.
Oh, yeah.
and There's a ton.
I think once the initial sidewalk, the sidewalks that are identified and exist are fixed, then they would be next in line. If they were, if those people want them,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
But also with the sidewalk repair credit, if you wanted us to repair your sidewalk and get a head start on it, you could do that work and then take a credit out of future payments, with the sidewalk. payment.
Okay, so the biggest winning question I think we all have, how come you just won't enforce the existing code?
It's a great
And
question.
hold these property owners' feet to the fire? Why do I have to pay for an Airbnb on Union Street to get a new sidewalk who's charging $600 a night?
There's one answer, and it's only sort of historical. There was an opportunity to do that for the past 20 years. And when I asked a former mayor about that, he said that would have required 6 code enforcement people to go out there and do it. So they chose not to do it. So yes, you're right, it's in the code, it should have been done, it wasn't. But we can't kick this down the road anymore, it's just that kind of thing.
Well, if it's in the code, just enforce it. You guys have
Oh,
the power to do
and I
that.
left out one point. That will not satisfy the Department of Justice. That's the biggest point. If that were a solution, believe me, we'd take it. And we'd hire all those code enforcement people. But it's
Why
not,
won't it satisfy them if
because
you're
they
gonna fix it?
made it clear that that's just not good enough.
Is that
Now,
right?
I might be wrong, but
I know,
Is it in writing? That they won't accept us to enforce the code that already exists?
that's-
Can I see that?
yeah, can we see that legal opinion? I mean, is that true?
well, it's definitely true.
So what I can do is I
I'm
can,
not asking you, I'm asking the city attorney.
Well, he's our ADA compliance.
Keep
officer.
the lead on all this, we actually have a lot of information.
So I guess I'm trying to understand why the government won't okay us to enforce it. You could probably get it done faster, your sidewalks, than waiting to get all the money from all us homeowners.
sure, so what happened when we negotiated the extension agreement for the settlement by the US Department of Justice.
And when
Was-
did we do that?
Sorry,
When did we do that?
we did that this fall.
So we've known about this.
Since 2019.
So since 2019, the settlement agreement was entered.
So
into.
why haven't we moved since 2019?
Good question.
I
Well,
mean,
one-
you know,
one thing
some
they
people
told me this
were
was-
here since 2019, a lot of you weren't. But, why wasn't this done? Why wasn't this taken care of when you first knew about it? Why are we at the end of the period? And, Michael and Kamal are stuck dealing with these people when this council should have acted 4 years ago.
I believe the council should have acted 20 years ago.
Well, that's neither here nor there.
Well, exactly my point.
I mean, we can blame it, we can go back to.
Exactly. Of course.
You know?
I don't think so.
I guess our biggest concern, as well as most of the people who are on your Zoom call, their concern is, why are we required to pay for something that
But you didn't cause.
we didn't cause? We don't have sidewalks, and these people are irresponsible property owners. That's not my fault. I take care of my property. Why am I being forced to pay for their?
A lot of people were talking about it, public sidewalks that should have been dealt with through this whole period as well.
Are all the sidewalks public sidewalks?
Technically, as you know, correct, they
Yeah.
are. I mean, it's a,
But the code says they're supposed to take care of it.
I agree.
But back to the government not accepting.
It was part of the conditions within our extension to the agreement, so we negotiated an extension from ending in October 2022 to ending in October 2024. And part of the conditions for that extension were that the city would explore a legislative option for the city that would enable the city to go in and do repairs on behalf of homeowners, and property owners. And so that.
And that's the only way they gave you the extension,
Yeah,
even though, did you tell them you had a code?
Yeah.
I don't buy that.
Okay, so
Can I
that-
write that in writing?
sure.
No, seriously.
I have a copy of that.
Well, I didn't say you were making it up, but I'm saying if you already have it as a code, the government should accept it and say, okay, now you need to enforce it. Not, I'm gonna extend it if you make people pay.
And what the federal government has said is notwithstanding the fact that there may be something on the books that requires a property owner to fix their sidewalks, ultimately it's the responsibility of the city. They're not gonna chase individuals. The federal government is not gonna chase.
I didn't ask them to chase it, I asked you guys.
What they said is due to the fact that those sidewalks had not been repaired, they needed to see more immediate, concrete improvement of the situation, and the way they were willing
Enforce
to
the code.
grant the extension, the way they were willing to grant the extension was if there were steps taken to do funding and
To screw the taxpayer.
and pass any legislation.
I think if we had evidence that we did try in the past enough, the government probably would have said, okay, step it up. But since we have no documentation of us making the attempt to do it through the charter.
So then we get to blame all the council people since 1990.
And still should be going after the individual who's not doing it, you're not fixing their property. That's a no brainer.
Then fix the sidewalk and tack it on.
We've been at all our lives. Mr. Mayor, we're not happy with this, as much as we're as unhappy with this as you are. And we're just not, that was my next question, how many people up here are homeowners, or part of this? I'm a homeowner.
That's a homeowner with no sidewalk.
You guys are all happy with it? Not happy with it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm a homeowner without a sidewalk on a street that the city doesn't even give us services for. City doesn't take care of my fire hydrants. City doesn't even plow my street. City doesn't even.
They're all over here with us.
But unfortunately, I'm over here with us. We're not the fifth.
Um,
So trust me, I'm very not happy about this at all, but the reality is, put something on the table today, or what happens is we all pay for it in the long run with the fines that we're gonna be accruing from the federal government. And this whole thing, man, you are 100% right. You look back at every lazy ass mayor and every lazy ass council person that you all voted for to put onto this since 1990.
Well-
Because this was literally the problem, kicked down the sidewalk for 30 years.
Well, it's also, the only one is, we don't have that power. The only one right now with the power for enforcement is commissioner, according to our charter, the commissioner of public works. He's the one that has the power that says, if you don't do this, the city's coming and do it and we're gonna charge. He doesn't want the power. This council doesn't have the power.
No.
No.
Hold on, Tim, are you finished?
No,
Okay, Margaret Morris, who has a lot to do with this law, would like to speak a little bit, so go ahead. finish.
now, once these property owners get the free sidewalk, are they in any way financially responsible to reimburse the city?
No,
Why not?
The repairs are being paid for through the assessment, or the repairs and new sidewalks that would be going in are to be paid for through the assessment.
I understand
So
that.
That's.
However, there should be a replenishing fund from recouping the funds, so it should be a one-time fee. I have no problem doing it once. But doing it every year, no, you need to be tacking the cost of the project onto their tax bill for next year. And they need to replenish that fund with the money that was expended. So that's my thought on this. They need to pay for it one way or another. If they want to be irresponsible and not fix their property, then if the city's gonna come out of this fund and pay for it, then that money needs to come from the property owner and go right back into that fund, so it'll keep going perpetually. And just keep replenishing that fund. It should not be an ongoing fee for me, who does not have a sidewalk, or anybody else sitting here who does not have a sidewalk. It's not right. It's totally unfair to all of us. And it's not fair to the people who have spent thousands of dollars repairing their sidewalks. You know, say even last year, and these people are gonna skate scot-free and I've gotta pay for it? No. There needs to be a provision in there for these people to have to pay that money back.
That's a good idea.
And you know what? If they don't get off their butts and fix it by this summer, then they're gonna be paying prevailing wage because it's gonna be a city project and it's gonna be covered by Wick's law.
That's right.
So their $6,000 project just became 15,000. And you know what? Good for them. Let them pay it. I had no sympathy for them. None. When I was on Union Street, I had to fix mine and I had to pay for it. Nobody helped me out. I didn't get any city funds. We should not be providing free services for people who neglect their property. Period.
Thank you.
I agree.
That's not a bad idea.
That's a great idea.
That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Tom, can we?
Margaret really addressed ahead of time to speak first, and then we'll open it back up, okay? She has something prepared, I think. So Margaret, you want to just?
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I just wanted to provide a little background to everybody on, I understand the frustration and the issue just, some of the issues raised, people who had fixed their sidewalks and so forth. So I understand some of that frustration, but I want to provide a little background for why we are where we are today. And why this particular council, which took its seat in January of this year, is trying to address this issue. And I think Michael has provided some background here, but basically we're in a situation where the city has to respond to the DOJ by the end of this year. We have been working on this for most of this year. We started with a sidewalk committee. Members of the sidewalk committee were Dominic, Vicky, myself, Amber and Ryan, and we were working on this issue as to how to address the requirements for DOJ. The work that committee was going to do was going to go through the legal committee. There was some overlap between the two, and later in the year, Tom decided to move the thing into legal so that legal could work on putting together legislation to address the issues, which is what we did. Legal is made up of nearly everybody on the council, with the overlap of sidewalk and legal was involved in this. So that was Vicky and Dominic, who were on sidewalk, were active participants in the legal committee discussions. Legal was made up of me, Theo. Sorry, I'm quite sick, so my brain's not quite there. Me, Theo, Art, Ryan, and Ronnie. Ronnie was also, I believe, on sidewalk. So we worked on this. So there were only 3 members of the council who've not been involved directly in what we put together here tonight. Are there problems? Are there things that we're not happy about? Personally, there are things in here that I am not happy about. One of the issues that was raised was, is there an end date to this, or is this just replacing our current code? At the moment, as written, there is no end date to it. We are replacing our approach to be a community approach, where the city takes responsibility for fixing and maintaining sidewalks. It doesn't revert to an enforcement process. Once we get past the fact that the DOJ will not accept, we are going to enforce our code as an answer to what the requirements are. Once you put that to one side and say, okay, we have to have something in place that fixes the problem. Now, how do we pay for it? And I just want to say to everybody, whether the people who don't have sidewalks, people who fix their sidewalks, whatever, if we went with a bond, the property tax increase would be such that we would actually exceed the cap, and we would end up having to cut programs and services to the city. That is what we would be talking about. None of the not-for-profits, none of the county buildings would contribute anything to the cost of this repair remediation. The entire burden would be borne by taxpayers. And keep in mind the residential fee. If you are a resident if you're a property owner with a residence with 3 or fewer units in the property, your annual fee is $100. Your tax increase, were we to go with a bond, would be well in excess of that. So, and one reason why we're able to, and we will relook at the numbers a year into it, but one reason why we're able to look at it this way is that we are looking at having DRI funding, which will address some of the issues on the western end of the city, down towards the riverfront. So that's a significant advantage that we have in the funding formula here. And so it tries to alleviate the cost of the individual property owners. But a really key thing here is that it won't be borne entirely by taxpayers. It will be borne by all property owners. And that piece is very important, whether you do or do not have a sidewalk. You are a resident or a property owner within the city of Hudson, and you benefit from the city having sidewalks. Now, with regard to people who did work on their sidewalks within the last 10 years, they get a credit. In all likelihood, they wouldn't pay anything for 10 years. So, I mean, if I had spent $5,000 on my sidewalk within the last 10 years, that would be sufficient to exempt me for the next 10 years. So I don't think that that is something that people should be concerned about. And I think we need to look carefully at how the legislation is written and discuss the details of it and move forward. But just remember, enforcing the code is not an option. What we have to talk about is how do we finance a fix that will be acceptable to the DOJ, where the taxpayers, not just the property owners, but the taxpayers do not have to bear the entire burden of the problem. And that's how we got to where we are today. And with that, Tom, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Margaret. That was very concise and eloquent. Theo?
Yeah, thanks for that explanation. And I think like the point that you raised and the idea that you brought in is a really great idea. I think that, you know, we're all in agreement, and I think that that's something to consider. And I think that a really crucial thing to understand about this is that this is a living document. We're not writing this in stone for the next 20 years. We need to do something so that we don't pay a whole lot more money. That's gonna be a burden, as Margaret really clearly explained, on all of us, you know, homeowners. And, you know, in that case, if we took out the bond or entered litigation, you know, that would be borne on homeowners.
What she really did was just affirm my point, when she brought up the 4-unit apartment buildings, that we all know we're charging $2,500 to $4,500 a month
Sure.
for rent. And they're gonna pay $100 and I'm gonna have to pay $100. That's fair.
No, they won't.
No.
4 units and above will have a higher rate.
Yeah, that's a.
Well, even a 3-unit, that's charging, they're making, you know, $13,000-$14,000 a month on rents in a
Sure.
building that.
And I think that I hear that you're getting specifics, and I think that there are so many shades of this. We're facing a deadline in 3 days.
Mhm.
And we need to get something forward on the table. We're not, as Tom said, we are not happy with having, I want to hear your point, and I just want to get this out. Is that this is a living document. As part of this law, there will be a board that will be meeting, there will be a project manager that will be scheduling these things, a trained professional to handle this. Those are open meetings with all the documentation available to the public. If this is an issue that, you know, you are passionate about, and I believe that you have a lot to say about it, you're more than welcome to join those meetings in the future and bring those ideas. There's even a spot on the board for a member from the community to be on the board to voice their opinion. So there are all these channels to things to adapt and change. I think that this is really a case that as an executive, and I'll say it again right now, we really can't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And this is just a starting point, and I think that we need to adapt as we go forward. So that's like the best thing that we have on the table right now.
As long as I have a guarantee that this thing is not gonna be the can kicked down the road again for another 10 years, and we're stuck paying this fee for something that we don't have. I mean, I think the loan idea is probably the most reasonable solution. I got no problem kicking it once. But like I said, if I'm kicking in 10 years for Joe Blow down on Union Street, because he doesn't fix a sidewalk, that's not fair to anybody.
There's one problem with what you said, the loan idea. The loan idea isn't a one-time payment. That would be a bond that we would have to pay interest on every year until it's paid off.
Well, no, you establish the fund with the initial fee. And then
Oh, that,
He's
oh, I
talking
see.
about the
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You gotta make
Oh, I-
repairs out of that.
No, no, no.
And then tack it on to their tax. bill.
Okay, yeah.
If they're being irresponsible, treat them like
Right.
they're irresponsible.
Gotcha.
They don't deserve any type of respect.
I misunderstood. I thought you were talking about doing.
No, I mean, maybe I misworded
All right,
it, but,
no, but,
you know, if the city's gonna go ahead with the repairs at, you know, at the prevailing wage, and they wanna pay 3 times as much for their sidewalk, more power to you. I wouldn't do it, but
I think the thinking is, and I'm not certain for that. Because it'll be a contract that involves many sidewalks, that at least there'll be some economy of scale. That maybe counteracts the prevailing wage.
And is Warren Street gonna be the first one you do?
I'm sorry, what?
Warren Street gonna be the first one you do?
That'll be determined. I mean, I don't know.
I could bet my life on it.
Really? I wouldn't do that. Your life is too valuable.
No, I'm still waiting for the information from the DOJ that they won't accept enforcing the code that's on the books.
Yep. Well,
You're gonna give me that, right?
Sure, if you provide me your contact information, I can provide.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, there's one hand up online. Is that Nick Piro?
Hey, Tom. Yes, it is. Nick Pirro, Fifth Ward, Paddock Place. I may have missed it, but Margaret said in her little presentation that people that have fixed their sidewalks in the last 10 years are exempt from the $100 fee per year. Did I hear that correctly?
No, they get credit. They're not exempt.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why can't the city put a clause in this whole thing that exempts homeowners that don't have a sidewalk from paying the $100 fee? Again, and I kind of stand with Hutch that we don't have sidewalks. A lot of us in the Fifth Ward and other places in the city, and we're stuck footing a bill. And I don't believe that sidewalks will ever be put in our area, not in my lifetime. You know, why can't an exemption be put into this clause, a one-line exemption that says, if you don't have a sidewalk, you don't pay the $100, period, the end. And if that means having to raise the fee for everybody else to $105 to cover the cost, why isn't that something that can be done?
Marvin, do you want to answer that? You're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so Nick, I think, and I certainly hear what people are saying, what do not have sidewalks. First of all, you did hear correctly that in the legislation as it's currently written, if you made repairs to your sidewalk within the last 10 years, you would get a credit of 1/10 of your expenditure over a 10-year period of the date from which you made the repair. So let's say you spent $5,000, that would equate to $500 a year, which more than covers the 100. So if you had documentation that you could provide, then you would basically be exempt from that flat fee of $100 per year. With regard to those who do and do not have sidewalks, I think, and by the way, where I come from on this, a year and a half ago, before I was on the council, I wrote when this first came up, and this didn't just come up this year, it was discussed last year. I wrote a letter to the council adamantly opposed to anything like what we're currently looking at. That was before I understood the DOJ position. So I fully understand the position that people are taking who say, you know, why is it my problem if there's a bad sidewalk somewhere else? It's not me. Bottom line is we have to fix it, and then we have to fix it as a community. And so as such, we are all property owners or property owners within Hudson. We all benefit from having acceptable sidewalks. We all benefit from not being under a penalty from the DOJ. We all benefit from not having what would equate to, at a minimum, the maximum cap increase on property taxes, because given the cap, we would not even be able to increase the property taxes sufficiently to cover the cost. So we all benefit from us taking this approach. So I honestly think that we should look at this more as a community, whether you do or do not have a sidewalk. I would say to you, so you don't have a sidewalk, why should you pay for this? What about somebody who has a decent sidewalk that they didn't have to put money into in the last 10 years? they could make the same argument and say, why do I have to put money into this fund? There's nothing wrong with my sidewalk. I'm not going to see any improvements. This is not about the sidewalk or lack thereof abutting your property. This is about all of the sidewalks in the city as a community that we need to come together to fix. And with regard to the question about whether or not Warren Street would be the first area fixed, the prioritization is going to be based, first of all, on the areas that were cited by the Department of Justice in the ADA report. And that report is available to everyone. I believe, Michael, that that's going to be our first priority. And then this, the board that is being put together is going to look at the areas within the city that have the greatest need. I do not think that Warren Street, most of Warren Street does not fall into that category. I think there are residential areas in the second ward that certainly have some issues. So I very much doubt that areas on Warren Street that are not within the DOJ zone would fall into that first priority, but that will be down to that board to set the priorities for what needs to happen first. So do you have any questions? And I really do understand where you're coming from, because a year and a half ago, I was in the same place. Do you have any questions?
So, and I haven't read through everything. So what happens if someone refuses to pay? What are the penalties at that point? If someone pays their taxes, it's minus the $100 and
Well,
we go about our business.
So this is not a tax. It will not show up on your tax bill. This is an assessment. And it is going to be like, I don't know whether it's going to go out with the water bills or what the actual nuts and bolts are, but it is an assessment, not a tax. And just as right now, if you do not pay your water bill, I think if you're delinquent for 2 quarters, that after 2 quarters, it goes on your taxes as a lien. This, I believe, would be, and I think, Crystal, you can speak to that. To my understanding, this would be handled in the same way. It would become a lien.
Thank you, Margaret.
Tom,
Go ahead.
can we just, so some people here and whoever, just explain, because, you know, the referendum that's in there, so they're educated and understand that portion of it, so they can make their own determination on the referendum.
It's available to the public. This is called a permissive referendum. So that if a petition is submitted within, I believe, after the law is passed, within
It has to hold for 45 days before it can be adopted, so it's usually 30 days, that's what that means.
within 30 days, then it goes to a full referendum at the city level in November.
Which means it gets voted on by the city, the citywide,
Right.
to pass or fail, just like, you know, any referendum that's on the back sheet of your ballots.
So you have to get a petition going within a.
I think it'd be about 250 signatures, I think, or something like that.
It's a percentage of the,
Percentage of how many people voted in the governor's race.
Within the city.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
of course, yes.
Has anybody looked into, do any other cities charge their people
Many
for?
This was based, Dominic, in fact, found this model 4 years ago when we started actually talking about it. So it's not like we just came up with this.
Can you tell me what cities that?
Oh,
Yeah.
This is based on.
I think
That's it?
there are others, Schenectady,
Schenectady had a hybrid sidewalk district that ended up having very high costs. They did not handle it with an assessment formula for this. We've looked at municipalities throughout the state. The sidewalk improvement district is actually something that's getting more traction just across.
Of course it is.
New York
It's
State, but also
another fee you can
across
charge.
the country, and it is a fee that's charged, but it's also an easier way for municipalities to be able to handle, because the ADA issue is not unique to Hudson. It's also something that the DOJ has looked at across the country. And it is a way for municipalities to be able to address that accessibility without doing what has been discussed tonight. The other options are, bonding with an extremely.
So this was only done because there was a complaint
correct,
for the American Disability
correct.
Act.
there's actually, I think, 3 complaints.
2 complaints,
3.
3. Can you tell me what street?
No, there's no, it's not given.
Oh, they
to the
didn't
street.
specify a
It's
street.
about government access. So the complaint went to City Hall, was part of the complaint.
Because you don't have access here.
Right, Oakdale, the youth center, Promenade Hill, right.
I think it just revamped all
Well,
that.
that's right.
But yeah, because of the ADA, yeah.
You've done it, I promise that.
Okay, we didn't get a fee for that.
Correct.
Where'd that-
That's what DRI money. DRI money. Downtown revitalization money you may have heard about. Paid for
The
that.
$10 million.
I've heard of that,
$10
where they
million.
had a committee that decided what to do with all that money.
First the committee, then the state responded,
Right.
and then we acted.
And
And
also-
also, by the way, one other was the bathrooms at,
Waterfront.
the waterfront had to be changed and they weren't.
Maybe they should have thrown the sidewalks in then.
I'm not sure I understand what that kind of means.
That money,
The money.
Oh, it could, because wait, this is.
well, you know this for
No.
what, 2000.
No, I understand what you're saying, but the DRI had to define a district to get the money. That's the way it works in every DRI grant. And the district was defined very narrowly as from the water to Second Street, from the north to the south. So nothing could be financed.
I know, it's all about waterfront, that's okay, you can move on.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just saying, everything is about waterfront in any town. Gets all the money. Where are we getting the 1.3 to rehab Upper Warren Street building?
We're not getting a dime.
It was in the paper today, it said
Yeah, that wasn't
1.3
quite
million.
accurate. The city does not get that money. The developer's getting that money. The person who owns the building is getting that. money.
Okay, so the developer went and got a grant
Correct.
through.
Through the governor's office.
The state government.
We can't go get a grant for sidewalks?
We are actually,
That's what
we're not grant that will do that, and that's also part of the flexible package. But the fee that you pay next year won't necessarily be in following years, because we could secure funding to help offset the cost for taxpayers. And that's something that people like Michael are spending a lot of time doing and advocating for the city and all of us in that way.
Yeah, so the governor will give you money for a trail.
Well, I mean, I don't want to be too fatalistic, you know, I think like, you know, they can get money for a trail.
It's going on like that.
Yeah, I will say that we're all looking for ways to use this bird, and you know, like, it's just.
I just have a problem with what they spend the money on.
Yeah, don't get that.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
Crystal Hines online would like to make a comment. Crystal, you're muted.
Yes, thanks, Tom. I just wanted to say that it's somewhat disappointing here at the very last minute that the Common Council is putting forward this legislation that clearly nobody's happy with, is inequitable, and just seems to be done so we can do something to appease the DOJ. And I hope that as these things come up in the future, when we're talking about redoing the zoning code and the LWRP, things that we keep talking about year after year after year, that maybe we can figure out a way, or you all can figure out a way as our governing branch to move some of these things forward in a manner that's a little less rushed and affords for a little bit more public participation. It's particularly concerning that you all have been without email, so who knows who has not yet been able to comment. That's all.
No, I agree with much of that, Crystal, except for the idea that there was an opportunity for public participation. We've had this on our agendas for 4 years. And, you know,
I understand that, Tom, but the legislation is pretty new and you all have been without
Isn't
emails
actually.
for several weeks now.
Listen, actually, Andy crafted it, the first version 4 years ago, I believe.
Well, and I think people have been commenting on it since then, and it's usually the same old comments, but I guess my disappointment is here we are at the last minute, at the last hour, and it's the same old stuff, but we've got to do it because otherwise there are consequences, and it's just disappointing. So,
I know, I agree. That's why we have a. Never mind.
well, listen, Tom, not for nothing, but you're leading the helm there.
And that's why we're getting it done.
So what would the fine be if you didn't push this through
Oh,
with the
we don't know.
DOJ? What would they do?
We can't anticipate that because we don't know.
Well, ask them. Can you ask them?
They have, we have it and they don't do that.
They won't,
Listen,
DOJ will not show you that.
Yeah.
They won't show you that, and because they're gonna say, because someone's gonna say, well, if it's only gonna be $1 million and it's gonna be more cost effective, play it fine. That's not what the DOJ is gonna do, because this is gonna be an ongoing thing. It's not just the DOJ that's gonna have the claim. It's gonna be somebody in a wheelchair that will have a claim against the city if this is not done and they don't have
Well,
accessibility.
that's why you have insurance, that's why I have homeowners, you fall on my sidewalk, you sue me.
So, yeah, civil rights take a totally different approach.
Forget it.
Yeah.
Forget it. You guys are gonna put this through, it doesn't matter.
No,
Well, we want everybody to understand why we are putting it through.
Well, I understand, I don't accept it and I don't like it because it has been on your table, not just your table, I'm going back. And nothing was ever done.
yeah.
I just can't understand why they comprehend is why the individual whose sidewalk is messed up, why is the dirt taxes going up? Just them. Why is everybody else's taxes going up? Not the.
This is a tax.
I know it's a fee that's
Well,
never.
me, whatever call which one, and why isn't just that the individual whose sidewalk is messed up? If you can charge everybody, why can't you just charge the individual sidewalk messed up?
Well,
I just can't.
if I can respond like to like the kind of general thinking behind that, like I think there's a lot more people who are more qualified to speak to like the legal nuance. I think that we had nearly like 5 or 6 months of like meeting and talking about this on the legal committee and the sidewalks committee as well. And the argument, and I'm just saying what the argument that we live with is that sidewalks, you know, people have different frontages, people have different stakes in it, but at their core, they are a common good. We don't charge people by the foot of street that they drive down. We don't charge people by the foot of sewer pipe that we lie down. The DPW does those services, and we all agree that it's in a common good to have a sewer system and to have no potholes in our road. When there's a pothole in the 3rd ward, my constituents in the 4th ward are paying for it too. I don't charge them by the pothole. So I think that like at its core, our argument is that sidewalks make the whole community better. We all have a shared interest in this, whether or not they're literally in front of our house or not. So
But
that's
that's not where we have the problem. We have the problem that there was a code on the books.
sure.
That's where the problem lies. That it was never enforced. And now we have to pay because whoever never enforced it. That's where I have the issue.
And I would rather not be in this
And we
position.
can-
You know, there, I feel like I'm, you know, 10 months or 11 months in, you know, to this inheriting.
saying,
I'm just saying, no, I understand the frustration.
That's what the problem is like it's been there, it's been out there for years. If you didn't
Exactly.
shovel your sidewalk, you
Yeah,
were supposed to get fined. You hire all these other committees and everything, so hire another code enforcer. I'd rather pay him than all these committees.
which wouldn't, I mean, again, there's the situation that, as it should be in the situation that is in front of us, the hiring of another code enforcement officer, I believe, wouldn't satisfy DOJ requirements. So the situation that we have right now is we have to do these.
Right,
things
because we
right now.
waited.
Because we waited, exactly, and there, no one's arguing that, I'm not gonna stand up for, you know.
But when you're
inaction.
talking about people doing that, what do my taxes cover? I pay taxes.
Yeah,
Okay, so I would assume it covers fire, police, DPW.
sure,
But the way you were just describing it is like, well, you know, you get your pipes and you get this, you only get your pipe just so far
The street.
to your house.
yeah,
You like the water coming to that pipe, don't you?
yeah,
Yeah, and I pay for it too,
Exactly, exactly,
quarterly.
right.
sure, there's water, and there's a pipe, there's infrastructure.
Yeah, so
There's,
what are we getting for our taxes then?
we're
Besides,
not just a group of
Somebody else do
individuals.
it time, we gotta do time.
Right. We're greater than the sum of
Right
our
or wrong.
parts here. Yeah,
Somebody else did the crime, we do the time. I've been working in jail for 30 years, you know, I know what the deal is.
But
You
this
know,
is the
making
benefit,
somebody else's crime.
this is the benefit of this process though, right? Like, I mean, Hutch, you bring up a great idea on the replenishment piece, right?
yes,
So
we
in,
did.
so in the public hearing piece, we had the opportunity to amend what we would put forward so that there is.
And I would be happy if you would put that in.
Right, this is my point. So it's like, whatever is raised here tonight, we hope that more, I mean, I'm glad to see the 5th showing up. I feel like a minority showing up right here for the 3rd at this point. So in that vein, like I encourage everybody to come to that public hearing so that we can tighten this thing down. So that what is finally passed after it's here for what, 2 weeks? 14 days,
7.
7 days.
Yeah, well, it's hand delivered, tentative.
Alright.
No.
Okay, so then a week after that, what we pass is something that we can all live with. For the
I just
PUD.
found out about this last night. My daughter sent me an article. Do I live in oblivion or something? I read the register every day. at work.
I don't know, ma'am, my only response to that, and I'm not trying to be condescending,
But
no, is
it
that
hasn't
we
been-
have a sidewalk committee that's been advertised on the city website, and I will tell you, more people in the city seem to care about and show up to the historic preservation committee than any other committee, and I said just about on all of them.
No, I think on Catalusos they show up.
Well, I mean, for the truck route committee then too.
Yeah, there you go.
But so, all right, we're fighting over a truck route that's gonna go through one area of the city, or this looming problem that's been around since 2019. That, again, you know,
No, but I'm saying, I guess I'm supposed to go to the city website all the time to be notified of this that's going on.
I mean, other than the Register Star, which is always made as our first decision at our organizational meeting at
Right.
the Frederick Council, being the,
I read it every day at work. I don't buy it. It's not worth it.
I understand, Registered Fish Wrapper as a moniker for a reason, but all that said.
But I haven't
it
seen
comes-
any of this in there.
It comes down to that the calendar is always provided to them, so outside of our power, when we designate whoever our media choice is.
I just wish you had gotten this out a little better of what was going on, what was coming down the pipe.
And I think that's one of probably the benefits of what we did last week by halting it. To get it out, and that was, I think, at least that was a goal for Vicky and I, to get it out. So there is knowledge, because it would have set worse, at least for me and Vicky, I think. If this would have passed last week, I would feel very bad, because it just, our emails were down and everything, so I think by putting the brakes on it, it gave us this opportunity for everyone to be on the same page and understand from all the consequences, from the bond, from all the other issues, it's there. And even if this is now on our table, it's not ended there. So it's out there now. So it's conversations now. So let's learn on this law. Let's figure out what works and what doesn't work, and let's all do this together. But, you know, I mean, like I said, I don't think this council, you know, would do something, but again, it happened, and we worked through it, and now we're here. Let's move on what we have here to positive, and, you know, that we all can. do.
And just to be clear, it wasn't the IT person, it's the service provider that had a ransomware attack, which took down not only us, but several institutions countrywide. It was Rackspace.
You should have been Hudson.
Well, no, that Mid-Hudson doesn't provide in that aspect, though. Rackspace is the servers we're now on a Microsoft 365 account, so.
That's right, I didn't know about that.
Was it in the register?
All right.
No.
Well,
Okay, Margaret would like to say something else.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up an issue. I don't know, Tom, if we're voting on it tonight or not, but in the course of discussions, I think, Dominic, you had put forward an idea because there was concern about lower income property owners and so forth of putting language in here to provide some redress for individuals who are on an income related star. So I don't know, Dominic, if that's something you want to speak to.
Well, I think there's a couple of things that, because we talked about civic responsibilities, and I think that we talked about we can change things with regards to the star. I think that we talked about civic, if a firefighter who's active, possibly should be exempt, especially if they're active. They're doing their civic duty by saving us a shitload of money if we were gonna have to pay for a paid firefighter. So I think that should be recognized as and again, we can readdress this, as Crystal said, we can readdress some of these things down the road to reassess what could work financially. But right now, the model, you know, what the financial model looks like, so we can put some stars exempt for seniors and things like that, if the financial model can work. But I think that we're talking civically, we need to also recognize what our firefighters and others typically do, and $100 or something, recognizing a firefighter's work. I think we should be doing something like that. There's, you know, we don't have hundreds of firefighters, we have a limited amount of firefighters. And so I think that that chunk, you know, it won't hurt us maybe financially, but also will reward us civically, because then we also might get more firefighters on board, because we're also lacking in volunteer firefighters.
No, I heard your point about the firefighters. I just wanted to make sure that in this public forum, the ideas that you had relating to STAR had also been brought up, because I thought that was very interesting point of view.
Thank you, Margaret. Thank you, comment. Ron Kapnicki has his hand up. You are muted.
Now, I think I'm unmuted now. Can you hear me?
That is correct, we can.
Okay. First of all, I didn't rejoin the meeting right away when it was resumed. So if you've dealt with any of these questions, please forgive me. The rationale for going into executive session, I believe, was litigation. And the open meetings law refers to proposed, pending, or current litigation. Could you give us more information about that litigation?
Oh, boy. We did discuss this, and the litigation has to do with our mandates from the Department of Justice.
Okay. The next question is, are there minutes taken of executive sessions?
No.
So there is no record. Can I ask you if any formal votes or decisions were made at the
as announced at the end of the executive session, when we came back from executive session, no formal vote was taken on anything.
Okay, and then finally on this question of what the DOJ required, I'm not clear about this. Did the DOJ ever insist, as part of the agreement, that a comprehensive plan be developed for the entire city?
No.
For the sidewalks,
Yes.
Michael?
The condition upon the extension of our settlement agreement was for the city to explore a legislative action that enabled the city to take make repairs to sidewalks.
For the entire city.
Yes.
See, what I was confused about was the deadline, December 31st, was being linked to the development of a comprehensive plan for the entire city. And my question was, could a plan simply for those pathways between various municipal facilities have satisfied the DOJ, leaving aside the merits of a comprehensive plan? Now it seems that the deadline the deadline doesn't seem to matter anymore. Because obviously the comprehensive plan is not going to be passed by December 31st. So my question is, again, if a plan had come up or even work had begun on dealing with the passageways between the various municipal facilities, those sidewalks and curb cuts, would that not have satisfied the DOJ apart from a comprehensive plan?
A comprehensive plan was not one of the conditions for the extension.
Okay, so then less could have been done in order to satisfy them than is now proposed. Again, leaving aside the desirability of a comprehensive plan, I get that. But my original concern was that the deadline was being applied to the comprehensive plan and it didn't need to be.
It is not applied to the comprehensive plan.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. We have one bit of technical business we have to take care of before we leave. There's an amendment that Crystal wants to make to the existing law so far. And she's gonna post it on it. Can you explain what it is? It's really good to clean up.
Yeah, it really is just clean up. So initially, as was discussed, this law has been kind of kicked around since 2019. And it initially had attached a map, a zoning map with it, in which it would lay out, there was consideration of having multiple districts as opposed to one citywide district. So the amendment essentially amends the paragraph A, which is the establishment of the sidewalk improvement districts. I can share that so that everyone can see what I'm talking about. Just a second, there we go. So, the very beginning of the proposed law. Yeah.
There you
How's that? Good?
Yeah.
Okay. So essentially, what the amendment does is it takes out the map. And it includes that the boundaries of the district shall be the same as the city of Hudson municipal boundary. That all parcels within the city shall be included in the district with the exception of those parcels as identified. Parcels identified as parcels accepted from the city of Hudson sidewalk improvement district. This is a select area of parcels that deals with municipal buildings that we are already have an obligation to repair, and we'll be repairing the areas in front of those buildings. There is a list that has been prepared. Michael was able to kindly grab me the tax identification number for those parcels that will be annexed to this legislation. And the amendment essentially takes out the map and annexes now this list of parcels that are now being accepted.
So attaches exhibit.
So I have an introduction,
Will be
okay,
attached as an exhibit, yes.
have an introduction? Amber, second, Arthur, roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Anthony.
Aye.
That's Caluti. Aye. Britt.
Aye.
Harris. Moranti.
Aye.
Morris.
Aye.
Roni.
Aye.
Star.
Aye.
Wallace.
Aye.
President Pietro.
Aye.
Carried.
Okay, moving along, any more comments from the public, either online or in person? This is gonna be with us for a while now, so we'll have plenty more time to talk about it.
And this fee is only yearly, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and,
Well, not sure, because they're talking about a water bill and that's quarterly,
yeah, it could be this, no,
but you don't know if it's coming with the water bill.
correct.
Or it's just if you don't pay the fee, your water's gonna get shut off. No,
They're gonna come and pull the side.
Cover your sewer will get shut down. Okay, in that case, if you don't have funny, you don't have time for this.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody object?
Enjoy your holidays this weekend. Stay nice and warm, it's gonna be a beautiful weekend. Like that?
I know, right? This is our father.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's hard
Oh, sorry. I love this.
Good start, just a bit.
Yeah, and this can always be a minute. I want to rename.
Enjoy that.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted to get like.